Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far we are nearing the end of the week, and that means that the free agency period is only 48 or so hours away from opening. At that point, all the players can sign their contracts. They will officially be free of all of their deals from last season, and that means that players will be putting pens to paper. A lot of the top teams will have a very good idea at this point what their squad is planning to be, and based on plenty of indications we are seeing, OpTic Pred is a highly likely possibility. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Happy birthday to Scump as well for yesterday. He was in attendance, of course, at the Arlington OpTic Texas, or OpTic Gaming actually, because, you know, it'd be nice at some point if it was all OpTic Gaming again, so it's kind of clear across all the esports. But yeah, Formal and Co playing in the OpTic Gaming hosted Halo event that's going on right now in Arlington. They went 2-0 in the pool play yesterday. That leaves things like this. So, you know, OpTic probably have to do pretty well here because it is kind of their home event in some sense. And look, if they win this, people will probably say it's rigged, but whatever. I don't think they're the favourites here because they didn't win the previous events. But nonetheless, interested to see how this one goes this weekend. Speaking of OpTic though, they did a phenomenal process episode that came out yesterday. This was just a fantastic watch as always from start to finish here. The Toronto side and what happened at the World Championship. Few interesting clips I want to just share from this one actually. There was some mention here from Dashy on how things went over the season. Pretty happy in some sense how they performed, how they bounced back from some... I mean, it was a difficult season for OpTic, you think about it, right? The fact that, you know, Scump retired when he did, the situation they were plunged into, trying to buy Pred out of that crazy, you know, buyout they tried to pay for him over from Surge. Seattle then decided to say no to that for whatever reason, and that never happened. They were kind of forced to get Huke, which worked out pretty well for them, and Ghosty was, you know, a very risky pickup in some sense at the time because OpTic don't usually do challengers players, but it worked out very well for them, and like they got a couple of second places. They battled back from being almost top 12 of their home major to make the finals there, you know, ran it up with another finals the next event, but just couldn't quite deliver on land at the end of the season. This also was mentioned, I've got to say, by HECZ in a very interesting clip where, I'll just share it for you guys here in a second. He talks about how comparing this OpTic team to the Dallas Empire team of a few years ago, really during the 2020 season, when they went from LAN to online and got very good within a couple of months of it going to online. Now, I think there's other factors in play here than they were just onliners, but at the time, Dallas onliners were being referred to because they, you know, got particularly good in that environment. And it's quite interesting that that team had Shotzzy and Huke on it. This OpTic team had Shotzzy and Huke on it. And HECZ almost seems to be implying that his team are onliners for whatever reason. Whether that's, you know, not taking it quite so seriously on LAN, whether that's overconfidence and great online performances. But it's interesting that HECZ mentions this because this onliner versus LAN debate has been had for some time with OpTic now.
We kind of got smoked on the map, and that was the end of their year. And it's tough to look back at it because if we do win that series, obviously can make a run. But I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs. Just not even just that champs, but the entire year. The 2 seconds, even Major 2 when we got 4th. I really thought that was winnable. But this whole year is just a whole lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and it's gonna suck for sure in the offseason because I know how if a couple gunfights, a couple scenarios went differently, if things would go our way, if a timing, a spawn. That's just COD though at the end of the day, so.
And I'm very thankful that I got the opportunity to, how all the dominoes fell for me to even be here, you know, and play on OpTic for a season. It's pretty damn amazing, honestly. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it into words, but it was just an experience that I'm always gonna remember and always gonna appreciate. So, yeah.
Bro, I got more Chinese now.
You know, there was once a team called Empire, and their logo was the crown, and in the crown there was the letter N and the letter V, and then somebody switched that over to make it look like a router, because they said, hey, those kids are onliners. And at the end of that season, they ended up winning the World Championship. Asterisk, no asterisk, I don't give a... But we're in the same location now, so for us to have this imagination that we're fucking shitting on everybody, you have to take into account the fact that we are using the same sort of technology internet that other people have used that have made them, allowed them to be winners, right? Very easily, or easier than everything else. But when you go on land, you have to have a little bit of a humbleness, right? A reminder that everyone and anyone can win on any given Sunday.
So it's a bit of an interesting one, right? Because I've seen lots of discussion from the fans about this over the last couple of months, when some fan bases will say, oh, OpTic, you're online as you know, 5-0 back-to-back online, because they went, or was it Major 4 and Major 5 qualifiers, didn't lose a single series in both of those. The first time any team had ever done that, to go 5-0 back-to-back qualifier sets. So they did that, congratulations. They got second at Major 4, they bombed out of Major 5, but look, they did get 2 back-to-back second places on LAN. So the OpTic fans would then reply to, you know, the fans that were giving them grief and saying, well, look, we're not onliners because we had the great LAN results, which I thought was probably a fair analysis. But at the same time, HECZ is now here kind of comparing their team to the Dallas onliners, as they were referred to a few years ago. Now, I think in both cases, this is less of a factor than maybe it is made out to be. For example, Dallas Empire, when they were considered, this is the image, by the way, that that HECZ they're referring to, when people converted the logo into something like this. And even you guys might remember, if you were watching back then, that Clayster, after winning something or other, put this on screen because they were just saying, oh, Clay and Co, you're all onliners, because the pandemic happened, everything went online, they played all the tourneys online, Dallas got particularly good. I think mainly they got good because Shotzzy improved massively, the team chemistry got better and better. They'd brought in Kremp, Clay, and 3, you know, young guys, really. I mean, it was Huke, iLLeY, and Shotzzy. Like, there was going to be a lot of improvement there from those guys, as there was, and they won the final LAN event of the season. People forget this. The final LAN, before it went to, the pandemic happened, it went to online, Empire won it. So they were already getting good, but just because they got excessively good online and they won the World Championship that year online, people said they were onliners. So fast forward to the present day, you've now got HECZ kind of saying, oh, you know, like, we don't take things seriously enough. And there was an interesting clip there during that process as well, where Ghosty, basically what they said is they lost, and they were like, oh, we play Seattle, that's fine, like, we'll run through those guys, and obviously it didn't work out for them, right? So maybe there is some sense there of, because they were dominating online for some time, they got a bit too, you know, confident maybe. I'm not exactly sure complacency set in necessarily, but I think that it's always a bit of an element, and I know Crimsix even mentioned this on stream last night or a couple of days ago now, and he was like, look, when you're on OpTic, sometimes you're incredibly good, best team in the game, sometimes you're absolutely awful, but most of the time you're in between. Most of the time you're just a good team. And the issue, he says, with the OpTic fan base is when you're just good, the fan base makes you feel like you're great. And, you know, that can be, from a mental perspective, that can be a detriment when you go into the big tournament of the season. And maybe that happened to a certain degree, I don't know, but I thought it was interesting that HECZ mentions specifically talking about that Dallas Onliners Empire team, whatever, and saying that, like, this current OpTic team effectively has some similar traits in some sense, and in fairness, they had some similar players, right? Shotzzy and Huke were common denominators across both of those teams, whether you actually think there was even an element across both of those teams of being onliners or not at the time. But it is something that OpTic need to think about, because it is at this point a consistent trend where at the end of the season, the big LAN events, OpTic just never have quite delivered really since 2017. Since 2017, their results at Champs have been pretty tragic, to be honest. Lots of, you know, top 4s, top 6s, the occasional top 3, but no Champs Grand Final in the last, like, 6 years or so. So not exactly optimal. Also wanted to mention that Shorstin, this was his final episode producing this. Honestly, having watched a load of the, you know, the classic Vision episodes that Hitch used to make back in the day, Roger's process as well, and now what Shorstin's done, I think this guy's taken it to a new level, to be honest. I think it's been great for years, the OpTic stuff, that the production quality has been immense. I will say that a lot of the time, the music choice that Shorstin seems to go for just is absolutely perfect, and yeah, I think he's taken it to another level. So that's the final episode I think you're going to see with Shorstin producing. Not exactly sure what's next for him, but of all these documentary pieces that get produced by the teams around the league, the OpTic ones are always clear in terms of production quality. Now, we've got to talk about then what's going to happen to this OpTic team going forwards, because clearly there was an element there where, you know, Huke especially, maybe HECZ thinks he's an onliner. I don't know, maybe you guys agree, because in fairness, Huke's online to LAN performances, KD-wise, didn't look so pretty. So they're going to bring in a replacement. The initial discussion was around Envoy, but just yesterday we saw that Envoy potentially to Ultra is now on the the cards, and who knows what that means in terms of how much money they may or may not have. But OpTic will need a replacement SMG, and the man you'd have thought they were always going to target was going to be Pred. Now, aBeZy says happy birthday to Scump yesterday. That doesn't mean we're going to get OpTic aBeZy, but we do get a happy birthday from Pred to Scump. And I mean, it's kind of incredible tweet actually, because he doesn't say, oh, happy birthday, brother, miss seeing you out there with just, you know, a picture of them together or something like that. But no, he tweets out this gif from the Vanguard World Championship. And let's not forget here, Pred has knocked out OpTic at the World Championship 2 years in a row now. In fairness, the entire Seattle Surge team and the same team has done so. This was the moment that, if you guys remember this in Vanguard, where Pred had this 1 versus 2 in the control. It was Scump and Dashy on the other side of things, and they went for some interesting chals. Pred gets the kills, and that, well, effectively won the map that ended up sending OpTic out of the tournament. So Pred obviously feels like he's got a decent enough relationship here with Scump and the other guys for him to, you know, make a statement like this, let's just say. And then Scump says in the replies, you are sick. You know I'm going to see you at some point. Now, of course, at some point they're going to see each other in an event or something like that anyway. Does this mean a little bit more than just, oh, at some point I'll run into you again at something or other? Does this mean, oh, you know, you're going to be at the Hex quarters / NVHQ or whatever? And actually, that was probably the other point of what Hex was trying to say in that clip there that I kind of forgot to mention, is that the Dallas Empire guys were playing from that NV facility when they had their dominant online performances, and that's now the same facility that OpTic Texas, apart from Dashy who's playing for the Hex quarters, were playing at today. So maybe that's what Hex was thinking, that it's just the internet there is godlike eventually, which might be what he was trying to get at. But yeah, is OpTic Pred going to happen? Because looking at all the options, looking at Pred's #1 choices, the FaZe thing might still happen for Pred, and I'm sure that they at least entertain some options there, but probably that's going to be Drazah. That's been the rumor for the last couple of days. And if that is going to happen and Envoy's potentially going somewhere else, then, you know, surely Pred is going to be here. The fourth for this team, though, is very much a massive question mark, and even as Octane says in the replies, you know, pointing at OpTic, right? And it's always difficult to say what Octane's up to exactly, right? Because he was baiting around so much before he announced his retirement that I was going to join OpTic and join FaZe and all this stuff, and, you know, never happened. He was going to retire. But his stream title on the day that he retired was like, joining FaZe or retiring, question mark or something, right? And people were like, oh, no way, this guy's retiring, so must be joining FaZe or something, right? But sometimes pros say stuff that seems like bait, but actually is, you know, truth to reality, right? Which is maybe what Octane's getting at here a little bit. And there was always these tweets coming along from Crone as well. The clues have been there all along. This tweet that Pred put out a few days ago, and then we've got Scump here in the reflection of his glasses. So pretty funny stuff. And of course, it wouldn't be the first time there's been an OpTic Pred. We saw this actually that OpTic did with Pamage the other day, reacting to some legendary moments from back in the day. An OpTic Predator, of course, like legendary sniper for the organization, and it was, you know, his gamer tag OpTic Pred. So it's getting to crunch time, right? Tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, that is when the season officially ends. The season isn't over yet technically, but next season begins in 2 days' time. At that point, all the players that are going to be unrestricted free agents will be officially, their contracts will have ended, they can sign new deals, and at this point, most of the top teams seem to probably know what they're planning to do, unless things change last minute on the whole Ultra situation, whether the whole Scrappy thing, whether there's a buyout going on there is potentially holding things up or not. But OpTic Pred seems like it's almost a guarantee to happen at this point, based on what we've seen over the last couple of days. The fourth, though, for the roster is very much still up in the air as far as I'm concerned. So very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.